Before any human life existed, there was no land, no sky, and no time as we know it. Scripture tells us that the earth had no form and was covered in darkness. Everything was empty and silent. Then God spoke. Light came into existence, and darkness was set apart from it. Day and night were established, creating the first measure of time. God then separated the waters, forming the sky above and the waters below. When the waters were gathered together, dry land appeared. The seas were named and the land was prepared. The earth did not remain bare. Plants, grass, and trees grew, each able to reproduce according to its kind. God placed the sun, moon, and stars in the sky to mark days, seasons, and years, giving structure to life on earth. Living creatures followed. Birds filled the sky. Fish and sea creatures filled the waters. Animals and livestock covered the land. Everything was created with order and purpose. At this point, the world was complete, but humanity had not yet entered it. Then God did something different. Instead of speaking, he formed a man from the dust of the ground. He breathed life into him, and the man became a living being. This man was called Adam. Adam was placed in a prepared world. He was given responsibility over the land, the animals, and every living thing. He was allowed to eat freely from what God had provided. But even in this perfect setting, something was missing. Adam was not meant to live alone, and that is where the story of humanity truly begins. God began creation by speaking light into existence. With that single act, light and darkness were separated. Light was called day, and darkness was called night. This separation established the first pattern of order. Time now had meaning. Next, God divided the waters. Some were placed above and others below. Between them, the sky was formed. Space was created where there had been none, and the world began to take shape. Then God gathered the waters below into one place. As they moved aside, dry land appeared. The land was named, and the seas were named. What was once covered and hidden now became visible and stable. The land did not remain empty. God caused plants to grow, grass, herbs, and trees, each able to reproduce according to its kind. Life was designed with continuity in mind. Nothing was temporary or random. After this, God placed lights in the sky. The sun was set to govern the day. The moon was set to govern the night. The stars were placed alongside them. These lights were not only for brightness, but to mark days, seasons, and years. Time was now organized and measurable. With every step, creation followed a clear pattern. God spoke. What he spoke came into being. Each part fit with what came before it. Everything was arranged carefully. The sky, the seas, and the land all had purpose. The world was being prepared, layer by layer, like a home set in order before its occupants arrive. Yet despite all this structure and beauty, something was still missing. The world was full, but it was not complete. What God was preparing next would not simply live within creation. It would reflect him. And that moment was drawing closer. With the land in place, life began to spread across it. Plants grew from the soil, grass, herbs, flowers, and trees. Among them were trees that produced fruit, each carrying seed within itself. This was not only beauty, but provision. The earth was designed to sustain life. Nothing grew by accident. Each plant had a purpose. Each seed carried continuity. The land was becoming a living system, able to renew itself. Above the earth, God placed the sun, the moon, and the stars. The sun brought light and warmth to the day. The moon governed the night. The stars filled the sky. Together they marked time, days, seasons, and years. Life would move with rhythm and order. Then the skies were filled with movement. Birds of every kind took flight. Their presence brought sound and motion to the air. The sky was no longer empty. The waters followed. Sea creatures filled the oceans, great creatures and small ones, each moving within the boundaries set for them. The seas were no longer still. They were alive. On the land, animals appeared. Livestock, wild animals, and creatures that moved close to the ground spread across the earth. Each one was suited to its environment. Each one belonged. The world was now full of life. Color, movement, and balance existed everywhere. Everything functioned together, providing food, space, and stability. Yet for all its abundance, something remained absent. There was life everywhere, but no one to fully receive it. No one to understand it. No one to tend it. No one to reflect the Creator within it. So the question remains, who was all of this for? After the world had been fully prepared, God did something different from everything that came before. He did not speak. Instead, he formed. From the dust of the ground, God shaped a man. This act was personal and deliberate. The man was not created at a distance. He was formed by God's own hands. Then God breathed into him. With that breath, the man became a living being. Life entered his body, not by chance, but by intention. This was the first human life. His name was Adam. Adam opened his eyes in a world already prepared for him. The land was rich. The air was alive. The earth carried everything he needed to live. He did not enter creation as a survivor, but as a steward. God placed Adam in a garden called Eden. It was not wild or chaotic. It was ordered, fruitful, and complete. Adam was given responsibility over it. He was to work it and care for it. God also gave Adam authority. The animals were brought to him, and Adam named them. In naming them, he exercised understanding and leadership. He recognized their nature and place within creation. Adam was given freedom. He could eat from every tree in the garden except one. This boundary was clear and simple. Life was built on trust and obedience, not fear. Adam had purpose. He was created to manage, protect, and maintain what God had made. He was placed between the Creator and creation, carrying responsibility for both. But even in this perfect setting, something became clear. Adam had work. Adam had authority. Adam had freedom. Yet Adam was alone. And that reality would lead to the next act of creation, one that would define human relationship forever. God placed Adam in a garden planted in the east called Eden. It was not an ordinary place. The garden was ordered, fertile, and complete. Everything Adam needed was already there. Trees filled the garden, beautiful to look at and good for food. Water flowed through it, dividing into rivers that nourished the land beyond the garden. Nothing in Eden was dry, broken, or scarce. Adam's role was simple and meaningful. He tended the garden and cared for it. His work was not exhausting, it was purposeful. The land responded easily to his touch. Food was available without struggle. Life was sustained without fear. There was no threat in Eden, no hunger, no danger, no need to hide. Adam lived within clear boundaries and complete provision. Most importantly, God was near. There was no distance between Creator and creation. Adam lived with a sense of closeness that required no effort to maintain. Communication was natural. Presence was normal. Everything in Eden worked together: land, water, animals, and human life. It was a place of peace and order, where nothing competed and nothing was out of place. Yet even in this perfect home, something was not right. Adam had purpose. Adam had provision. Adam had peace. But Adam had no one like himself, and that absence would soon lead to a change in the garden, one that would reshape human life forever. As Adam lived and worked in the garden, God brought the animals to him. Each one passed before Adam, and he gave them names. In doing so, Adam showed awareness and understanding of the world around him. As he named them, a pattern became clear. Each animal had a counterpart. Each creature had a companion like itself. They moved in pairs. They existed in shared life. But when the moment ended, Adam stood alone. There was no one like him. No one who shared his nature. No one with whom he could speak, reflect, or share responsibility. Surrounded by life, Adam still experienced absence. This was not a failure of creation. It was a revelation. For the first time, God declared that something was not good. It is not good for man to be alone. This statement matters. Adam lacked nothing material. The garden provided everything he needed to live. Yet life was incomplete without relationship. Loneliness existed even in a perfect place. Adam was fully alive, fully provided for, and fully protected, yet still incomplete. He was created not only to work the garden, but to share life. And God did not ignore this need. What came next was not a correction, but a completion. The next act of creation would answer this absence, and it would define human connection for all generations to come. To answer Adam's loneliness, God caused him to fall into a deep sleep. While Adam slept, God took from his side and formed a woman. She was not created from the ground as Adam was. She was formed from him. When God brought her to Adam, recognition was immediate. Adam understood that she was like him, yet distinct. She shared his nature, his life, and his place within creation. She was given to him as a helper and a partner. Not beneath him and not above him, but alongside him. Together they were complete. Adam spoke words of recognition, not instruction. He saw in her someone who belonged with him, someone with whom life could be shared. At this point, there was no fear between them, no need to hide, no awareness of shame. They lived openly, fully aware, and fully at peace. There was no conflict, no competition, no separation. Their relationship was marked by trust and unity. Together they lived in the garden as one. They worked, rested, and lived within the boundaries God had set. Their connection reflected harmony between man and woman, humanity and creation, and humanity and God. Everything was in balance, nothing was broken. But that balance would soon be tested. Because within the same garden that held life and peace, there stood one tree that carried a boundary. And how that boundary was approached would change everything. In the middle of the garden stood two trees that were unlike all the others. One was the tree of life. It represented ongoing life, sustained by God. Access to it meant life that continued as it was meant to be. The other was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God gave Adam a clear instruction. He was free to eat from every tree in the garden. Nothing was withheld. Provision was complete. But there was one boundary. Adam was told not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This command was not complicated. It was direct and simple. The instruction came with clarity, not threat. The presence of this tree did not remove Adam's freedom. It defined it. Without choice, obedience has no meaning. Without freedom, trust cannot exist. God did not surround Adam and Eve with restrictions. He gave them abundance, with one clear limit. The garden was not a prison. It was a place of trust. The command was not meant to trap them, but to guide them. Life in the garden depended on listening and remaining within what God had spoken. Every other tree was available. Every need was met. Nothing essential was denied. But now, within a world of freedom, a decision existed. And every story of obedience is also a story of choice. What Adam and Eve would do with that choice had not yet been revealed. But the moment was approaching. At some point, another presence entered the garden. The serpent was unlike the other creatures. It was observant and deliberate. It did not approach with force or threat. It approached with words. The serpent spoke to the woman and began with a question. It did not deny God outright. Instead, it asked her to reconsider what God had said. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? The question was subtle. God had not forbidden every tree. He had allowed nearly all of them. But the serpent framed the command as limitation rather than provision. Eve responded. She explained that they were free to eat from the trees, except for one. God had given that instruction clearly. The serpent did not argue. It adjusted the meaning. It suggested that disobedience would not bring harm. It implied that eating the fruit would bring insight and awareness. What God had set as a boundary was presented as something desirable. The focus shifted. Eve looked at the tree more closely. She noticed the fruit. It appeared good for food. It appeared pleasing to the eye. It seemed to offer something more. Nothing had changed about the tree itself. What changed was how it was being considered. The moment stretched. This was not a sudden action. It was a gradual shift, from trust to curiosity, from instruction to personal judgment. A decision was forming, and once the boundary was reconsidered, the choice was no longer distant. Eve reached for the fruit and ate it. Nothing dramatic happened in that instant. The world did not shake, the garden did not change, but something within her did. She gave the fruit to Adam, and he ate as well. In that moment, their awareness changed. Their eyes were opened, but not in the way they had been led to expect. Instead of gaining clarity, they lost something they had never known they could lose. Innocence disappeared. For the first time, they became aware of themselves in a new way. They noticed their nakedness and felt exposed. What had once been natural now felt uncomfortable. Shame entered human experience for the first time. They did not celebrate what they had done. They did not feel wiser or stronger. They felt unsettled, confused, afraid. They tried to cover themselves using leaves from the trees around them. It was the first human attempt to hide a problem that had begun within. When they heard God approaching in the garden, they did not run toward him as before. They hid. The closeness they once knew was replaced by fear. Trust gave way to avoidance. The relationship that had been open and unhindered now felt broken. Nothing external had forced this change. It came from one decision. And with that choice, life in the garden would never be the same again. God came into the garden just as he had before. But this time was different. He called out to Adam, "Where are you?" The question was not asked because God did not know. It was an invitation for Adam to step forward, to speak, to respond. Adam answered from hiding. His words revealed fear. He admitted that he was afraid because he was naked, and so he hid himself. God asked him how he knew he was naked. The question pointed directly to the command that had been given. Adam responded, but he did not take responsibility. He spoke of the woman who had been given to him. He said she had given him the fruit, and he had eaten. Then God turned to the woman. She spoke as well, and she also shifted the responsibility. She said the serpent had deceived her, and she ate. No one denied what had happened, but no one fully owned it either. The closeness that once defined the garden was gone. In its place stood distance, fear, and blame. God's response was not loud. It was not filled with rage. It carried weight. Disappointment settled over the moment, not as punishment alone, but as grief. What had been trusted was broken. What had been open was now guarded. Humanity had stepped away, and the cost of that choice was becoming clear. The consequences would follow. But even here, the story was not ending. Something else was about to be spoken, words that would shape the future of humanity itself. God spoke next, and his words carried consequence. He addressed the serpent first. The serpent was judged for its role in what had happened. It would no longer move as it once did. Its place was lowered, and hostility was set between it and humanity. From that moment forward, conflict would exist. Then God spoke to the woman. Childbearing would now involve pain. What was meant to be joyful would also carry struggle. Relationship itself would feel tension. Life would continue, but not without difficulty. God then spoke to the man. The ground, which had once responded easily, would now resist. Work would become labor. Food would come through effort and endurance. The earth would produce thorns and hardship alongside its provision. Adam was reminded that he came from dust, and now, because of disobedience, he would return to it. Death entered human experience. This did not mean immediate loss of life, but it meant that life would no longer continue without end. Time now had an ending. Because of this change, access to the tree of life could no longer remain open. To eat from it in a broken state would mean living forever in separation from God. So humanity was removed from the garden. This was not done without care. God clothed Adam and Eve before they left. Even in judgment, there was provision. The world outside Eden would be harder. Life would be marked by struggle, pain, and loss. But humanity was still alive, and the story was not over. Adam and Eve left the garden together. Eden, the place where life had been easy and close to God, was now behind them. They did not leave because they were unloved. They left because life had changed. At the entrance to the garden, God placed angels. A sword of fire guarded the way to the tree of life. Access was closed, not out of cruelty, but protection. Life could not continue forever in a broken state. The garden remained, but humanity could no longer return to it. Yet before they left, God did something important. He clothed them. Their attempt to cover themselves had been fragile and temporary. God replaced it with something lasting. This act showed care, even after disobedience. Judgment had come, but so had compassion. Adam and Eve stepped into a harder world, one marked by labor, pain, and loss. But they did not step into it alone. God did not abandon them. His presence did not disappear. Disobedience brought separation, but mercy remained. This story is not only about the first man and woman. It is about every human who has faced choice, responsibility, failure, and consequence. Humanity lost the garden, but it did not lose God's care. From this point forward, the story of the world would carry struggle, but also hope. The desire to restore what was broken would continue across generations. The account of Adam and Eve reminds us where pain entered human life. But it also shows that even when trust is broken, love does not end. The story did not finish at the gates of Eden. It continues. in every choice, in every failure, and in every moment where mercy meets humanity.